Hi, everyone. This is Jackie Cooper with J. Cooper Travels. And today I have a really special guest. I'm super excited to be sharing more about him in just a quick second. For those that might be new to my podcast, let me just share a little bit about the vision and why I created J. Cooper Travels. My background's I'm an attorney, but I did a career switch about 18 years ago, and now I'm in special education. And I love working with kids, and I also love helping others. And I've also learned over time that you can make a lot of changes in your life, both in your career as well as your personal choices. And one of the things that I ended up doing a number of years ago is I started different businesses because I knew that it was important for me to have different streams of income. One of them being in the travel area. And we're going to talk a little bit more about travel because I love to travel. I love to meet people, and I love networking with individuals both here in the United States as well as around the globe. But I also realized that because of what's been going on in the past year, that we travel in so many different ways. We travel both geographically, but we also travel in our own personal journeys, both in our career and our family life and our spiritual life. So I am inviting various individuals on to share their stories, and also to, possibly give each individual who's listening a little bit of inspiration to help you make decisions that bring in your life the joy and happiness that everyone deserves. So I have today Randy Mahoney, and I'm really excited to have him on today because he actually is a fellow podcast producer. And this is the first time that I've actually had the honor of having someone else be on the podcast who's also familiar with the process. How are you doing today?
Jackie, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I'm really, really excited to have you here. So explain to everyone who's listening what your podcast is about. And for those that don't know, with a podcast, as well as my YouTube channel, there's a little block of information underneath. So even if we share contact information while we're talking, and if you don't have a pencil, if you're driving, you're listening, you can always find the contact information in the block below. So that way you can reach out and be able to listen to other things, other podcasts. So tell me more about your podcast.
Sure thing, Jackie. So my podcast, it's called the Work with Purpose podcast. It is a season-based career podcast. I produce episodes once a month. They come out on the first Friday of every month. And my goal with the show is to provide listeners advice, education, and encouragement for their career journey. Another way I like to think about it too is I want to bring any listener added value to encourage them or affirm them in their career journey within the span of 20 or 30 minutes. So I try to, really work a lot to make career information, bite-sized, practical, helpful, and things like that. So that's a little bit about my show.
I like that. I like that a lot. So when did you start it?
So my first episode was the start of this year in 2021, but it really started, from fruition back in October of last year. This has been a dream that had kind of been in my heart, of thinking about how can I use my gifts, my background. I studied a little bit in media arts and communication in college, worked for my college's radio station and things like that. So how can I take, those talents, but also come back to as how can I serve people with it and really, affirm people and help them work better. Because this really focused for my life really started back in, 2017. For a lot of my college education, I thought I'm a Christian. That's the lens I look through. That's how I coach people and things like that too. So I really thought that God had a calling for my life to be a pastor in a local church setting and kind of be creative with a media arts pastor type of thing. But around about 2017, just reality hit. That was, graduated in 2012. Years after that, worked a lot of what I call get by jobs. So jobs just to pay the bills and things like that with loans and stuff like that. And so through that time of just soul searching and other internships and everything like that, I really landed on the idea that, really my purpose is to really encourage people and help them work better. And I've seen that theme played out in my life a lot of different ways. So I'm a part-time podcaster right now. But for my day job, I have the privilege to teach special education students, and really, so I do a lot of this teaching about career skills, developing resumes, practice job interview questions, and things like that too. So there's a lot of overlap. But the podcast started in October of 2020 when I got a generous donation on a website that I use to support the show, and that helped me buy equipment, that helped me pay for hosting and all the things like that. And so since then, I've just been planning and trying to think about how can I bring value to my listeners to really serve them. Because I think back of where I was in my darker times of like, man, what's the focus of my life, and where can I go to bring my gifts and my talents and my strengths to really help people be better.
Yeah, no, I think that there's definitely a need for your podcast. And I know that there, with what's been going on in the past year, there's been a lot of soul searching that many people have had as to how can they, what can they do. Many are not as fortunate as you and I who have teaching positions. Many are have been left off because of the COVID situation, and that's put a lot of stress but it also has created a lot of opportunity too, because it means that even though it might be temporarily difficult, it gives people sometimes choices and options that they wouldn't have maybe been open to in the past. And that can be a good thing. I know when I had one income pulled out from under me when I was younger, it made me really think hard and long as to how did I want to create stability. And I love working for myself, but I also love working within a system too. But I know that even if you work in a system, that doesn't mean your job is secure. Mm-hmm. So that's why I always try to have a plan B in case, the primary plan, something happens to it. But again, I think what you're doing is phenomenal. So in terms of your work with high school students with disabilities, tell me more about that, because I know that that's close to my heart too.
Sure. Well, I'll say I'm privileged. I work for a local nonprofit organization, and how my work with high school students with disabilities happens is that we have a contract to work with various high schools in our area, and we work with special education students who have, say an IEP or a 504, different structures within their high school setting to help them be successful as a student. And we come in and we provide what is called pre-employment transition services, or you might hear it in circles called pre-ETs. And so I help lead a team of 2 other career coaches who do the same thing. But we work with special education students who are from 14 years old to 22 years old. And our job is to really go a little bit deeper than maybe their special education teachers or other resource teachers have time to, just because of the nature of how many students they serve, class sizes, and you throw in a pandemic and other things on top of each other. We have a chance to really, I think, meet a need and really help students with disabilities, but also their families think about planning for the future. Like what will their child's adult life look like after high school's over, and to really try to take proactive steps to get there. So that's kind of the 30,000 foot view of what I do. We have a chance to work with students all throughout the year. And I have done this work for nearly 3 years now.
So are you helping students just in your state, or does your organization help students out of state as well?
Sure. Yeah. So with my organization that I work for, we serve just counties near us. So in our case in Indiana, we serve just maybe 2 or 3 different counties. But I will say our nonprofit organization is part of a larger collaborative of other agencies all around our state here in Indiana. And so that's kind of how we fit into that.
That's great. That's great. I know here I'm in Maryland, and we also have supports and services for students that are looking at the transition side of it, which is the career side for those that might not be in the education field. And what you're doing is really needed, because you're right. When you're in the education side of it, doing the academics, that's different than sometimes career planning, that, because how you develop a resume, or how you look at, creating a bank account, or just some of the daily life skills that when you're out and about and doing a job, we learned it as we did it, but now it's important for individuals to kind of get guidance on that. So that's great. In terms of one or two things that you think the job seekers need to know going into the rest of 2021, what's your vision, and what do you think that they should be thinking about?
I mean, you brought up a really good point when you were talking about the lay of the land now for people in the wake of 2021, coming out of or still in the midst of COVID-19, that sometimes, historical moments like this in our time can bring, whether people were furloughed from jobs and stuff like that, it can bring people to a place of really assessing themselves in an honest way. So I think what I would say to, anyone listening who might be not liking the job that they have right now, or struggling to, think about or struggling because they got laid off and wanting to find out what's next, really take this time for reflection, and think about what, in the long view of your life, in the next 20 to 30 years, what kind of work do you want to be doing? Really take inventory of your skills and your talents and your gifts, because, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, you are a person who has purpose. You are a person who has those gifts, and the world is hungry for that. The world needs people who are passionate about the work that they do. They don't need another person just strolling to an office and just staying it safe and riding the wave until retirement. A joke I like to use is that the days are gone where people work at the same company for 45, 50 years and get the gold watch. I think that there's a lot of research to that, and that's changing. But I think that would be the one thing that I would send to the listeners, to encourage them, is take this time to really get clear. And if you haven't been intentional, haven't been thinking about a plan for your career, make a plan now. And even if you have a job right now that you might not like, think about what skills you can learn in this job that you have right now that can help you get to that next place you want to be.
I definitely agree. And personally, I've navigated many different jobs, like you said. I've done the jobs which were simply to pay the bills, because I also wanted to maybe do a passion project and do volunteering. So I had to kind of make some choices there. Or, I'd worked as an attorney, but then I decided that I needed to get retirement, and so that's why I transitioned into education. But I also took a look at the fact that I didn't have an education degree. So how would I get that? And in the area of the county that I'm in, they had a resident teacher program, which has been changed now, but they paid part of the master's degree, so that way I could be working and teaching. And so there are programs out there where even if you're not sure where you want to go, think about what you don't want to do, and from that eliminate what you don't like. Like, I knew that it would be really hard for me to have a traditional 9-to-5 job. It would be really hard for me to be in one space. I like to move around. I like to do a variety of things. So I looked for a job or a profession which would give me the ability to be creative, that would give me the ability to help others, and also that would give me the ability of mobility. And so the special ed field does that, because I'm learning about brain science all the time. I'm being creative and working with the kids to think about how can I help them in a non-traditional way. And I get, in my job, my position, I'm able to go from different classrooms. So I get variety from that perspective. So you're right. When you are pushed sometimes to the wall, we're thinking, okay, I now have to make a choice. Sometimes it's a temporary choice of what you're doing to get the income in, but the long-term choice, sometimes it's a gift and it's an opportunity.
No, that's a really good point on that.
Yeah. So I see in my notes from you that you've made a career tutorial video. Tell me more about that. What is
Sure.
that?
Sure. So that's something that I developed and put together a couple of months ago. It's called the Occupation Card Sort Career Tutorial Video. It's an activity that's it's used a lot with different career coaches and things like that. It's nothing new, but I wanted to take just a really common activity that a career counselor, career coach might use to really help people get clear about what do they value in a job, what do they value in a company. And so it kind of works in line with the activity where you have you have a list of maybe your top 20 different work values, so things that are important to you. Like, let's say you might desire that your pay is the same between you and your coworkers, or you value that you have support of your manager or leadership at work, or you value having steady employment throughout the year, different things like that. But what the video does, it kind of walks you through what that activity is, talks about the six, universal work values that, if you do a Google search for that, you can find those. But it really takes and explains that activity, really helps viewers see, why does this activity matter? Why should it matter to me? And really, I created that to help, resource listeners, to help them get clear if that's a pain point for where they were in their career journey.
So again, for everyone who's listening, the contact information will be definitely in the podcast below. But if someone wanted to find that resource and also to connect with you, what's the website and how would they find you?
Sure. So I would say a really good the home base for the Work with Purpose podcast. You can go to www.wwpcast.com. That's kind of our home base for the podcast. The easiest way to find the career tutorial, if you go to wwpcast.com/shop, it'll give you a link and a button to click on. If you click on that on our shop page, it'll bring you to the website to get access to that video.
So again, for everyone who's listening, all that will definitely be in the block below. So you'll be able to access it. And I also know that you're offering individual career coaching services on a limited basis. Tell me more about that.
Sure. So this is something that I took some feedback of people who are on my email list, or people who have listened to the podcast, and I wanted to see ask them a question and just say, hey, if I offered career coaching to you, one, how much would you expect, maybe pay for something like that? Are you interested in it? And the feedback I got was that there is some interest for kind of more one-on-one career coaching. So this is, I'll say this is something that I take that I can take on a limited basis right now. So if you have listeners that are interested, I offer at least a couple different coaching packages and some things like that to really help people where they are. I'll say this too, with every interested coaching client, I do offer a free consultation to kind of get to know each other. We see, hey, would I be a good fit if you wanted to do career coaching like that? And then from there, we can kind of, somebody would choose a package to, and to work with me and things like that. So if you have listeners listening, they can actually send me an email at wwpcast@gmail.com, and just make sure that you put career coaching in the subject line, so I know what that is, and and then we'll kind of go from there.
That sounds great. So we've talked about a lot today. We've talked about how you're helping students and how you're helping adults, and also just overall great career, thinking about where the next step might be. I know personally, one of my passions is travel, and one of the reasons why I'm passionate about that is because of the diversity of people that I meet, as well as just learning about different countries and cultures. And that's something that obviously, everyone is missing right now. And I know that, more and more people are doing road trips. And that's something that J. Cooper Travels actually is going to be featuring. We're doing road trips to different cities. So that way we're going to interview different mayors. I've interviewed 4 so far. I'm really super excited about that. I know you and I were talking about your bucket list trip. When we start to move around again, where do you want to head and go with your travel?
Sure. Well, I would say my bucket list trip has to be at least like a week or more stay in Seattle, Washington. So, Jackie, you and I were talking about this before we recorded today, but I'm a big coffee person, so love Starbucks. I'm a gold member, all that stuff. So, Seattle is where Starbucks started. So I would love to go and visit the mountains there, maybe do some hiking with my wife, and just have some fun there. Visit Pike Place Market and where the first Starbucks is, and everything like that. So that would be my bucket list trip.
Yeah, if I had known that you were going to mention Starbucks on the podcast, I would have brought down all my little Starbucks little coffee mugs, because I have a collection. Every place that I go, whether it was to China or to Europe or other places, I don't get a lot of knickknacks, but if I can, I'll get one of the little demi-tasks, the little mini coffee cups that have the name on it. So because that's easy to travel with, but it also is a great memory. So and I would have toasted you.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
So so again, why don't you share one more time where people can find you, so they can reach out to you for both the consulting as well as possibly the other tools you have.
Sure. So if you want to connect with us with the Work with Purpose podcast, our website is www.wwpcast.com. If you're interested in career coaching, you can send an email to that same place, wwpcast@gmail.com, and just put career coaching in your subject line. You can find us on Twitter at wwpcast. You can find us on Facebook. You go to Facebook, you can search for the Work with Purpose community. That's our private Facebook group for listeners of the podcast. So those are kind of the main key places people can connect with us.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really great. For both my listeners as well as your listeners, be sure that you like and subscribe to the podcast that you like, because by liking and subscribing, you're helping the podcast person who's creating it. And you'll also be able to follow along on new episodes as they get pushed out. So definitely, for everyone who's listening, like and subscribe to both of our podcasts, because that shows support for what we're doing in our various paths. And one last gift for everyone who's listening: I do have access to a wholesale travel booking platform that is free to access, and you can save up to 35% on your travels. The one reason why I do mention this is because every time you activate the free portal, the foundation associated with the portal actually donates meals to families in need to both Mana Relief and Children International. So over the last year and a half, we have fed over 4 million families. So just, if you're thinking about traveling, check it out. The rates on there are less than Priceline and Expedia, and there's 110 price match guarantee. So all that will be in the information below. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your being here. Any last minute thoughts that you want to share to listeners?
I think the only thing I would say is that, if you're listening, your life matters, and life is too short for you to not work in line with your unique strengths, your unique gifts, and your unique talents.
I think that's a great way to end this, because I totally agree with you. Follow your passion, follow your heart, and find something that brings you joy in life. So anyway, thank you so much for being here, and I know that we'll talk again. Have a great one.
Thanks.